So Pratik sir, what is your, and I want to introduce you, Pratik sir, very senior most faculty in Delhi and Hyderabad. So Pratik sir, what is your first impression on this particular question paper?
So the first impression, I've gone through the polity questions, and what I understand after reading the questions is the questions asked this year were of moderate level. Some questions, relatively 3 to 4 questions were easy, but the remaining questions were a bit difficult, I would say. So the questions in entirety from polity were not easy. You're expected to understand the subject in detail. You're expected to understand the characteristics, the features in detail to be in a position to answer the questions. So we'll find out which are the questions which were difficult and which were the questions that were easy. Welcome to Vishnu IS. I am Pratik. I am the faculty of Indian Polity. Now students, the reason why we are discussing these questions is to make you understand the type of questions asked in this year's examination. You may wonder why. Because going through these questions, you'll understand the logic behind asking the questions in this year's prelims examination. Now, once you understand the questions, the type of questions asked, the logic behind the question, you'll be in a position to anticipate the questions next year. So the reason why you need to solve the previous year questions is to understand the psyche of the examiners. Because once you understand the psyche of the examiners and during your preparation, you can anticipate the type of questions UPSC may ask. That's the reason solving the previous year question becomes paramount in your UPSC preparation. So let us start with question number 51. What the question says. So, consider the following statements. Panchayats at the intermediate level exist in all the states. Now see, most often you see that the topic with respect to Panchayat Raj institutions, it appears in the newspaper. Why? Because with respect to functioning of the Panchayat Raj institutions, which is inefficient, you get to see topics pertaining to this topic time and again in the newspaper. So question is asked, panchayats at the intermediate level exist in all states? No, it does not exist in all the states. Panchayat at the intermediate state exists only in the state having a population of more than 20 lakhs. So it does not exist in all states. Thus this statement is incorrect. Now, to be eligible to be a member of a panchayat at the intermediate level, a person should attain the age of 30 years. The eligibility to be a member of the Panchayati Raj institutions is not 30 years, it is 21 years. So, this statement is incorrect. The third statement, the Chief Minister of a state constitutes a commission to review the financial position of panchayats at the intermediate level. Now, if you have read the Lakshmikant, if you have read the Indian Polity, nowhere the Chief Minister will constitute a commission. At the center level, it is the President who will constitute a commission, that is the Finance Commission, and at the state level, it is the Governor who constitutes a commission for what? To make recommendations regarding the distribution of net proceeds of the taxes and duties. How much share the state government has to distribute to the panchayats. For that we have State Finance Commission, and who constitutes it? It is the governor. So even this statement is incorrect. So, which of the following statements given are not correct? This one is not correct, this one is not correct, this one is not correct. The correct answer is option D. Option D is the correct answer for question number 51. I hope you understood this particular question. Any questions? Let me know in the comment section. Okay students, if you have any question, feel free to ask in the comment section. I am reading your comments, so any question, feel free to ask the questions. Okay, so let us proceed to the next question. Okay, So students, let us start with question number 58. Now the question pertains to the institution of Lokpal. What is the statement number 1? The power of Lokpal applies to public servants of India. Yes, it is applicable to the public servants of India. Doesn't matter whether they are serving in India or outside India, but not to the Indian public servants posted outside India. No, it's applicable to the Indian public servants to ensure that there is transparency, which means there is no corruption within the government functionary, or let's say in the governance, right? So this statement applies to public servants of India, but this statement is incorrect. Okay, so the next statement is a chairperson or a member shall not be a member of parliament or a member of legislature of any state or UT, and only the Chief Justice of India, whether incumbent, that is serving, or retired, has to be its chairperson. Now see, yes, the first part of the second statement is correct. No member of parliament, no member of state legislature can be a member, can be the chairperson of Lokpal. But the second statement, only the Chief Justice of India, whether incumbent, no incumbent Chief Justice of India cannot serve as the chairperson, which means it has to be retired Chief Justice of India, retired Supreme Court, or an eminent jurist in the opinion of the President. So this statement incumbent is creating all the confusion. So this statement is incorrect. Even this statement is incorrect. The third statement, the chairperson or a member shall not be a person of less than 45 years of age on the date of assuming office as the chairperson or member, as the case may be. Yes, under the Lokpal and Lok Ayukt Act, the minimum age prescribed is 45 years. So this statement is correct. And the fourth one, Lokpal cannot inquire into the allegations of corruption. No, it also includes allegations of corruption even against the Prime Minister. Even this statement is incorrect, which means it has to be which of the following statements given above are correct. Only the third statement, yes, option A is the correct answer. Now again, I would keep this question under the moderate category. This is not an easy question. This question demands you to understand, know each and every feature of the Lokpal and Lok Ayukta Act of 2013. Moving on to the next question. So it is the question that we have to the next question starts from question number 66. Okay, let us start with question number 66. Now this question, students, pertains with respect to pardoning power of the President. Now why this question has been asked? Because there was a topic, or there was discussion surrounding the pardoning power of the President of India with respect to commute suspension of the death sentence. So if you see, the statement pertains to pardoning power of the President of India. Now even see, this is a static topic, but behind every static topic you can see a reference to the current affairs happening in the last 1 year. So if you just type pardoning power of the President, you will get articles, you will get references that have appeared in the newspaper in the last 1 year. And so is the question. Okay, what is the question? The exercise of this power by the President can be subjected to limited judicial review. Yes, which means the President of India has the pardoning power, but is subject to limited judicial review, which means the courts will intervene only when the courts find out that the President has exercised the pardoning power in bad faith, that is mala fide reason. So yes, it is subjected to limited judicial review. So this statement is correct. Okay. The next, the President can exercise this power without without the advice of the central government. Incorrect. What does Article 74 state? That the President is bound to act as per the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Though this statement is inaccurate, and only statement number 1, which of the statements given above are correct? Now this question, I will keep this question under easy category. You cannot go wrong with this question. This is an easy question. Let us move on to the next question. Okay, so consider the following statements. On the dissolution of the House of People, which means Lok Sabha, on the dissolution of, okay, let me see if any question. Okay, so on the dissolution of the House of the People, the Speaker shall not vacate his or her office until immediately before the first meeting of the House of People after the dissolution, which means once the Lok Sabha is dissolved, the Speaker will continue to hold his or her position until the newly reconstituted Lok Sabha is formed. So this statement is absolutely correct. Shall not vacate. Yes. According to provisions of the Constitution, a member of the House of People on being elected as Speaker shall resign from wrong. See, there is no constitutional or statutory requirement for any member of Parliament to resign from his political party upon his or her election to the Speaker of the House of People, which means this statement is incorrect. In UK, it is a mandate for every member who gets appointed as a speaker to resign from the political party. So it's applicable in UK, not in India. This statement is incorrect. The Speaker of the House of the People may be removed from his or her office by resolution of the House of People passed by majority of all the then members, not only the present and voting. So this statement is a bit tricky. Now this question demands you to know in and out about the position of speaker. And if you see, look at the position of speaker or speaker topic is always in the news. So you expected to know in and out about the position of speaker. Provided that no resolution shall be moved unless at least 14 days notice has been given of the intention to move the resolution, which means 14-day notice period has to be given before a resolution can be passed in the House of People for the removal of the speaker. So yes, this statement is all then, had it been present and voting, this statement would have been incorrect. So this statement is correct. So let us look at the options. Which of the statements given above are correct? So 1 and 3, which means C is the correct answer. Yes, C is the correct answer for this particular question. Okay. Next question, consider the following statements. Question number 68. Yes, we are on question number 68, right. Now, if any question arises as to whether a member of House of the People, that is Lok Sabha, has become subject to disqualification under the 10th schedule, the President's decision in accordance with the opinion of the Council of Union Ministers shall be final. A very, very simple question, very simple statement. If you get this question incorrect, which means your preparation is not up to the mark. You cannot go wrong with this question, students. One of the easiest statement asked in the examination. So, President, no, it is Speaker. It is Speaker in the case of House of People, and then Chairman in the case of Council of States, that is Rajya Sabha. There is no mention of the word political party in the Constitution of India. What is the 52nd Constitution Amendment Act? Now this question may at times seem tricky for you, but no mention of the word political party. You may not have come across this word. See, there's a chapter on political party in your book Lakshmikant. That doesn't mean that it is mentioned in the Constitution. But if you look at the 52nd Constitution Amendment Act 1985, which is about anti-defection law. Now this 52nd Constitution Amendment Act mentions political party, which means it is a part of the Constitution. Simple. There is no mention of the word. This is incorrect. It is mentioned in the Constitution via the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act, right? So statement number 1 is correct. Which of the following statements given above are correct? A, 1 only. The second, there is no mention. It is mentioned. This one is incorrect. Statement A is the correct answer. Next question. Okay. In India, state governments have no power for making rules for grant of concessions in respect of extraction of minor minerals, even though such minerals are located in their territories. Now, this is a current affairs based question. Now, why this question has been asked is because this topic was in the news somewhere 3 to 4 months back. The name of the legislation is Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957. This act gives the state government power to regulate and administer the minerals. So here it says that state governments have no power. This is incorrect. In India, the central government has the power to notify. Yes, the central government will only notify which are the major minerals, which are the minor minerals. But when it comes to administration, it is the state government who has got the power. So this statement is correct. This statement is incorrect, which means statement 1 is not correct. Statement 2 is correct. Okay. Statement 1 is not correct, right? Yeah. So which means option D is the correct answer. Option D is the correct answer for this particular question. Let us move on to the next question. And these are the questions pertaining to economy. Yeah, with reference to this question. Okay. With reference to the Indian polity, consider the following statements. An ordinance can amend any central act. Ordinance has the same force and effect as that of a law. So, ordinance can amend any central act. This is absolutely correct. An ordinance can abridge, which means violate a fundamental right. Now, can a central government law violate fundamental right? No, simply no. Which means ordinance, which is nothing but a law, a temporary law, which is mentioned in Article 123 of the Indian Constitution, can abridge a fundamental right? No, it cannot violate a fundamental right. Now, this is incorrect. Third, an ordinance can come into effect from a backdate. Backdate, which means retrospective effect. Retrospective irrespective. Now students, this is an easy question. You cannot go wrong with this question. If you are going wrong with this question, which means your preparation is not up to the mark. This is one of the easiest question that has come this year. So you have to make sure that this question or the answer that you attempt for this question is correct.
86 to 90. 86 also. 86 to 90.
Okay. Okay. Next question. I hope you understood the. So, what is the correct answer? The correct answer is ordinance can come into effect from backdate. Yes. 1 and 3. Option C is the correct answer. Right? I hope your answer to this question is correct. 82nd question. Now, Arunachal Pradesh, the capital is named after a fort and the state has 2 national parks. Now, this can be rather a tricky question. Now, how do you deal with this question? Maybe you need to use your hunch, you need to use your guess. So, again, the next statement. Nagaland, the state came into existence on the basis of a constitutional amendment act. Now see, Nagaland was the first state to have got the status of statehood, and this was granted only through constitutional amendment, which means this has to be the correct statement for sure. Even I do not know which amendment, but I know that yes, the state came into being through a constitutional amendment. So at least this question is correct for me. Now, the third, Tripura, initially a Part C state, that is after independence. There were 3 categories of states, Part A, Part B and Part C. It became a centrally administered territory with the reorganization of states, that is once the Reorganization of States Act was passed in the year 1956, Tripura came under the category of Union Territory and later attained the status of a full-fledged. This is 100% correct. Now, this statement is correct, this statement is correct. So, either the answer has to be B or C. But here the correct answer is option C. Yes, now see, the state has 2 national parks. Again, that's part of current affairs. So, you are expected to know the state has 2 national parks. So, my hunch says that all the 3 statements are correct. So, C is the correct answer. With reference to India, consider the following: the Interstate Council, the National Security Council, the Zonal Council. How many of the above were established as per the provisions of the Constitution? A very good question. Yes, it's a very good question. So, if you look at 83rd question number, right? Interstate Council, the center-state relations makes it very clear that Interstate Council was established via the Constitution as per Article 263. National Security Council, it's an executive body. Zonal Council, it's a statutory body. So, only one has to be correct. So, 83rd statement. 83rd statement, only one, which means option A is correct. So, I hope you understood why the first one is correct. Interstate Council, Article 263, Center State Relations, National Security Council, Zonal Councils, statutory bodies. So, Constitution, which means it's a constitutional body, that is A is the correct answer. The next question. Question number 84. Consider the following statements. The Constitution of India explicitly mentions that in certain spheres, the governor of a state acts in his or her own discretion. Yes, the governor has got some discretionary powers. Which discretionary powers? One. When no political party is in a position to form the government, the governor can use his discretionary power and appoint a chief minister of a political party. And later on, the political party has to prove the majority. Or let's say when a bill comes to the governor for his assent, then the governor can refer the bill for the reference of the president, which means the governor has got some discretionary powers, and this is mandated by the constitution. So this statement, yes, is correct. Explicitly mentions the statement is correct. Next, the President of India can, of his or her own, reserve a bill passed by a state legislature for his or her consideration without it being forwarded by the governor of the state. Now see, the language seems to be complicated with respect to majority of the statements asked from the polity question. Let us read the question again. The President reserve bill passed by a state legislature for his or her own consideration without it being forwarded by the governor of the state, which means the question is, can the President of India by his own refer the bill passed by the state legislature to the President? Which means the President cannot suo motu by his own refer the bill passed by the state legislature for his or her reference. No. Which means for a president to look after the bill passed by state legislature, the bill has to be referred to the president only through the governor. Only through governor, once a bill is referred to the president can look into it. So this is incorrect. So which of the following statements or which of the statements given above are correct? Only one. Right? 84th question, option A is correct. Next question. So again, if I have to place this question, I will place this question under the category of easy. The statement, the language is complicated, but if you have read the provisions, it's a straightforward question. So I'll keep this question under the easy category. Let us move on. Okay, so consider the following page, provisions and the stated under. Separation of judiciary from the executive in the public services of the state, the directive principles of state policy. Yes, this is mentioned under the directive principles of state policy, Article 50 of the Indian Constitution, which is a part of directive principle, which mandates that there has to be a separation of judiciary from executive, which means this provision talks about the separation of power principle, between the legislature, executive and judiciary. So this is a part of DPSP. Valuing and preserving the rich heritage of our composite culture. Now this is a fundamental duty of each and every citizen to preserve the composite culture of our country. Yes, this is a part of fundamental duties under Article 51 of the Indian Constitution. The third statement, prohibition of employment of children below the age of 14 years in factories. This is mentioned in Article 24 of the Indian Constitution. So very simple question, fundamental rights. Yes, 1, 2, 3. How many of the above pages are correctly matched? All the three. Option C is the correct answer. So again, I'll place this question under the easy category. Let us move on to the next question. With reference to the Constitution of India, if an area in a state is declared as scheduled area under the 5th schedule, this question talks about the 5th schedule, that is the scheduled areas. So this question pertains to scheduled area under the 5th schedule. the state government loses its executive power in such areas, that is, which areas? The scheduled areas under the 5th schedule, and a local body assumes total administration. Now, this is a confusion that many students have. When it comes to 5th and the 6th schedule, they think that the state government has absolutely no power. This is absolutely wrong. See students, when it comes to 5th schedule, the governor can make certain regulations for the peace and good governance. For example, with respect to how the land can be used. But nowhere, no part of the 5th schedule mandates that the state government will lose complete power. The state government has the power with respect to administration over the scheduled areas. And the second part of the statement, local body, for example, the tribal advisory council constituted under the 5th schedule is only advisory. The local body constituted, the recommendations are advisory, which means this statement is grossly inaccurate. Why? Because the state government has the power, right? So this statement is incorrect. Next, union government can take over the total administration of such areas under certain circumstances. No, this is incorrect. When we discuss that state government has the power with respect to administration over scheduled areas, there is no question of central government taking over the administration of scheduled areas. So again, which of the following statements given above are correct? Neither 1 or 2. Option D is the correct answer for question number 86. So 86. Now see, with reference to India, consider the following statements. The National Automotive Board, it comes under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. No, it comes under the Ministry of Heavy Industries. Heavy, this is incorrect. The next is the Coir Board. The Coir Board, Ministry of Heavy Industries. No, it's Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. The next is National Center for Trade Information. It comes under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So this is how it should be. So how many of the above pairs are correctly matched? None, which means option D is the correct answer for question number 87. Next question. Consider the following subjects under the Constitution of India. First is the list 1, Union list in the 7th schedule, extent of the executive power of a state, conditions of the governor's office. So what is this question? The question is, for a constitutional amendment with respect to which of the above? One is Union list, the extent of the executive power of the state. The third one is the governor's office. Which of the above ratification by the legislatures of not less than 1/2 of the states is required before presenting the bill to the president? Which means this talks about special majority with the ratification of half of the states. Now see, Union list, which means it talks about the distribution of legislative powers between the center and the states. Now when a subject has to be transferred, let's say from state list to concurrent list, of course you need the permission, you need the ratification from the state government, because this disturbs the federal nature of the Indian constitution of the Indian state, and so ratification of 50% of the states is required. So yes, this requires ratification of 50% of the states. Extent of the executive power of the state. Yes, executive power. On which areas the state can exercise executive power? It requires ratification. Conditions of the governor's office. Now, governor, with respect to the conditions of the governor's office, the state government has no role. Why? Because the position of the governor, it falls under the unitary feature, not under federal feature. So, these two, it affects the federal feature. This does not affect the federal feature. Why? Because the governor's office is a unitary feature, which means 1 and 2 which is required before with respect to which of the above. So, 1 and 2. 1 and 2 union list, 7th schedule, and the second one is extent of the executive power of the state. So, this too affects the federal nature of the Indian state. Governor's office absolutely has got nothing to do with the federal nature. Why? Because governor's office is a unitary feature. So, option A is the correct answer. Next question. '89 question with reference to the Indian polity, consider the following statements. The governor of a state is not answerable to any court for exercise and performance of the powers and duties of his or her office. Yes, this is absolutely correct. This is what we refer to the immunity. Immunity which is granted to the position of governor. So, the governor is not answerable to any court, neither arrest or a governor can be sent behind the bars during his term in the office. No criminal proceedings can be or shall be instituted or continued against the governor during his or her term of office. Yes, these are the special privileges not only governor but also the president enjoys. So, this is mentioned under Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, the exemptions. The members of a state legislature are not liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said within the house. Now, this explains the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, every member is or does enjoy. So, members of not liable, which of the above statements? So, again a very simple question. So, I would keep this under. So, all the statements are correct. So, D is the correct answer for question number 89. Question number Question number 90. Okay, I guess this is the last question from Indian polity. Okay. Consider the following statements: production of crude oil, refining, storage and distribution of petroleum, marketing and sale of petroleum products, production of natural gas. How many of the above activities are regulated by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board of India? Now, this is a question. Now, please see the first statement: production of crude oil is not regulated by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory, right? It is handled by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So, please remember that the PNGRB, that is Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board, does not regulate the upstream activities like exploration and production. So, this has got nothing to do with the first statement. The next one, refining, storage, yes, this is regulated. Marketing and sale, yes, this is regulated. So, production, again, see, production has got nothing to do, it is not regulated. So, when it comes to production, the upstream activities, it is a ministry. So, This is regulate. How many of the above? So, which means only two. Only two. Option B is the correct answer for question number 90. Then I guess we have another question. Yeah. Who among the following are members of the jury to select the recipient of Gandhi Peace Prize? Now, this Gandhi Peace Prize is an annual award instituted by the Government of India in the year 1995. This is awarded to individuals who have contributed in the social sphere, economic sphere, political sphere through non-violent means. So, with a list of jury, the President of India, no, the President of India is not a part of the jury. Prime Minister, yes. CGI, yes. Leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, yes. Which means 2, 3 and 4. 2, 3 and 4, option C is the correct answer. I hope students you understood the type of questions asked in this year's Prelims examination 2025. So what is the takeaway? Takeaway is one, that you cannot escape from these static topics. You have to ensure that your grip on these static topics is as strong as possible. Second, it is very important to read the current affairs. Why? Because the static questions asked this year were somewhere related to the current affairs asked in the last 1 year. And if your efficiency of all the questions asked in this year's polity questions is coming out to be 80-85%, which means you have done a good job. Right? So that's the end of all the polity questions from this examination. The next